All right, Jeff Zimmerman here with the legend, UFC and Pride pioneer, MMA legend, Quinton Rampage Jackson. How you doing, champ?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. And listen, we met a few weeks ago in Vegas. Super cool. And then the reason, part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is you got into my world. You're getting into my world with boxing and had a rematch lined up with Rashad Evans this weekend, New Mexico. And next thing you know, the fight's off. Um, Rashad put out kind of a vague message, contractual issues, what have you. What happened there?
If I'm gonna keep it real, I feel like the promoters are shady, man. They didn't do nothing they said they was gonna do, not one thing. Um, I was trying to be nice to them and talk nice to them, and talk good about them, see if they was going to end up to their end of the bargain. But I've never done boxing before, but I guess how boxing doing, they give you a deposit and stuff like that, and those guys they only gave us half our deposit, and since they never gave us the other half, my manager's like, man, I don't know about these guys. Let's get them to put the fight person in escrow, and they stopped communicating with my manager and stuff like that. So I'm like, man, I'm not going out there and fighting for these guys. I'm not doing it. So Rashad and I had to pull out.
So did you make the call, Rampage, initially, or
No.
was it Rashad who kind of said, I'm out first?
To be honest, Rashad has been keeping me in this thing for months. Um, they didn't they've been messed up with I'm trying to speak correctly here so I don't say nothing that they could, if we go to court, they could use against me. So I'm
I
trying to
got
think
you.
on my feet. But to be honest, months ago when they didn't give the first deposit on time, I wanted to pull out. I'm like, no, I'm not going through this again because I went through this when I was trying to fight Shannon Briggs,
Mm.
and then we got word that they was only going to give half of the deposit. That's when I was like, no, I don't want to fight for these guys. And then Rashad is the one that's been keeping me in. And then there's this final one I had to give the statement and everything. My managers and stuff, they said they was done dealing with them because they felt like they wasn't planning on paying us.
Wow. Wow. I remember that happening to like Jermell Charlo or something like that. Uh and Crawford was fighting on a fight with this promoter. I can't remember who it was. And that was my first question to him. He's like, no, I got all my money up front because you just don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know. And I trained really hard for this. I was real dedicated, looking forward to having my first boxing match, and so I'm kind of disappointed that it didn't go through.
So you and Rashad, though, you guys are cool. This could happen down the line, though.
Yeah, it could happen. We got a couple of different offers out there for us to fight and stuff like that. So we seeing what's up. But my heart was set on boxing, right?
Right, right. Let me ask you, man. There's always this competing MMA and boxing, and now it seems like the UFC MMA kind of took over boxing. But yet you got all these fighters like you. You had Ngannou fighting AJ. You had Anthony Pettis fighting Roy Jones Jr. Nate Diaz against Jake Paul. What is it about former UFC, former MMA guys getting into the boxing business?
This is the thing. Like we feel MMA fighters. We feel like we're the real fighters. We don't. I respect boxers, but we don't consider boxers fighters. So, we just showing y'all what type of people are our heart. We'll walk into y'all arena and do what y'all do, and box y'all and fight y'all style because we train boxing. We just love fighting. MMA fighters, we're different. We're a different breed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
We we
So go ahead.
go ahead.
No, so you're saying you don't really respect just having that one skill set? Is that it? Just
No,
being a
no, I
boxer?
didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. Me
Okay.
training boxing made
Yeah.
me respect boxing a lot more. Me training just strictly boxing for this fight is a sweet science, and I got mad respect for it. But to be honest, before I started training strictly boxing, I didn't respect it as much as I do now. And any fighter that put his life on the line to entertain anybody else and to go in there and step in that ring or octagon or cage, where you want to call it, to fight in front of potentially millions of people, to have like wannabe fans, wannabe fighters and stuff, that can talk shit on them. You got to respect people like that. You got to respect people like that because it's not an easy task to go out there and saying you risking looking like shit. You risking getting knocked out. You risking everything. So people that can't do what you can do talk shit on you, right? So you got to respect that. But I'm just saying that MMA fighters, yeah, we like boxing. We train boxing.
Right.
You don't see boxers training MMA. There's no need for it. We need to know boxing in our sport. We don't need to because we got stand up, we got kickboxing stuff like that. But boxing is a good craft, right? So I did the first half of my MMA career. I didn't take boxing. I took MMA. Then I started taking boxing, and I loved it. I love the footwork. I love all the combos. I learned all the stuff you learn, but a lot of stuff we can't use in MMA. But I don't see a lot of boxers stepping over into the cage doing what we do. So we just saying like boxers, we just want y'all to respect us, bow down to us because we are the real fighters. Y'all not. So y'all need to bow down to us.
So with that said, and thanks for explaining that. I knew there was respect there, but thanks for clarifying. Is there some resentment though on the pay? Because that always comes up when it's MMA versus boxing, that the boxers at the elite level, at levels like you were at, you're seeing Canelo, AJ, Fury, all these guys making 30, 40, 50 million. Is there resentment within the MMA community?
Oh yeah, yeah. It is, but if you really think about it, the top 1% of boxers make way more money than the top 1% in MMA. But everything else, MMA make more money than boxing. But you got the guys like you just named; those are the 1%ers. They're making more money than like the John Jones, the Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor, he's doing good now, but the top guys, the Nate Diaz, the Anderson Silvas, the Chuck Liddells and stuff like that. The top 1% of boxing, they make a lot more money than the top 1% in MMA. And I've been thinking about this. So, on my podcast, I asked some boxers I asked some MMA fighters like, if you was making $30 million a fight, how many fights would you do a year? How many would you keep fighting? Because MMA is just that hard. And I think Dana White and the UFC, I think they kind of know that if we was making $30 million a fight, we wouldn't fight no more. There are a lot of MMA guys, they'll fight one fight and they'll retire because that training camp is hard. It's like there's no sport like MMA. MMA is really hard. It's a really hard sport to train for.
Yeah, and to that point, you're seeing the elite boxing guys fighting once or twice a year, which is killing the sport in some ways with boxing. So now when you're talking MMA, it's so much more to it where guys can get beat up in so many different ways.
Yeah, if I was making $30 million a fight when I was in my 20s, I was fighting 6 times a year. I used to fight 6 times a year. I probably still would have been doing it. I would have, if I made 30 million the way I am, I would have fought 6 times a year, making $30 million a fight. Yeah, I would have done it, but a lot of people won't. A lot of people won't do it.
Right.
It's just the training camps is just too tough.
It takes what is that mindset, Rampage, when you went over to Japan to build your name in front of in a foreign land and became this legend, pioneer, superstar in Japan? What is that mindset, just going to another country and then getting in that cage and in front of like in another world?
I was young. I was young back then. I didn't really think about a whole lot. I just thought I loved fighting. It was my career, and I can go to Japan and fuck some Japanese bitches. That's all I cared about. I didn't care.
We needed that, man. We needed that for Fight Hype. Hey, so when I heard the respect part of it, right? And so obviously Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, I covered that fight here in Dallas. And I get a lot of people after hitting me up. I asked, I told Jake at the press conference after, hey man, keep bringing them. You're getting better and better each time. I know he's training with real people. But there's a lot of haters out there still, even within boxing. What are your thoughts on a guy like Jake who's doing all this stuff for women's boxing, getting all these other fighters opportunities? What's your take on what he's doing, and even his brother Logan in the WWE?
Well, well, I think Jake is I think we can thank Jake for reviving boxing. I'm not gonna lie, during COVID, I wasn't really watching boxing and something that no more really until Jake Paul started fighting and putting on fights and stuff like that. And Jake Paul, he's an entertainer, and I can see his boxing skills keep getting better, and he's becoming to look like a great boxer. But I think he gets a lot of hate, and I'm not saying I hate him. I'm saying I think Jake Paul gets a lot of hate because some of the stuff he says and some of his opponents that he picked, like real fans know that he's handpicking his opponents. Which, in my opinion, I think it's smart. He come from a different background, come from YouTube, that learned the craft and got better at it, and smart that he's handpicking his opponents. But a lot of fans, they look at stuff different. Some fans are weird. Like you get fans that understand stuff and they're like, "Oh, it's entertainment." But then you get some fans that's just weird. Like right before I got on this podcast with you, I was going through my DMs and some people, calling me a pussy because I pulled out a fight with Rashad. They don't even understand that, why the fight is not happening. So some fans are just weird,
Yeah,
and some fans they understand, they get it. Some fans like, yeah, man, don't let people screw you over. Blah, blah, blah. They get it. Some people they don't even pay attention. They just say, oh, the fight's off. Rampage pulled out, and they don't get no information. So same thing, like people don't get no information on Jake Paul, what he's doing, and they just see him fighting like MMA guys or Mike Tyson. Why Mike Tyson, like very seasoned, and then they just hate him. And it don't help that Jake Paul runs his mouth and says a lot of crazy stuff too.
yeah, yeah. He knows how to get under people's skin, and he has that skill for sure. Um,
Right.
but and you were a little bit like that, right, Rampage? I mean, you like to talk, you like to ruffle the feathers.
Yeah, yeah. I like to be entertained. I'll talk about my opponent and stuff like that. But I like to do it where it's fun and make people laugh. I didn't really my goal wasn't to piss people off unless I really didn't like the fighter. And I'm not trolling my opponent to piss off the fans. It seems like Jake Paul be trying to piss off everybody. He's smart. He got it way he's smart the way he do it. I think it's genius. He made me a fan. I'm a fan of Jake Paul. I'll watch him fight, win or lose. I'll watch. I want to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I was watching some old clips of yours, and Joe Rogan called you the funniest guy in MMA, when
Uh,
during your
yeah.
day.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I like to laugh.
yeah, yeah, I know. What are your thoughts? Dana White is now in the boxing business. He's been talking about it and talking about it, and now he's lined up with Turkey Al Sheikh and Saudi. Um, Boxing is different. You know that the business is different. You got all these promoters, you got all these sanctioning bodies. It's not a monopoly. What are your thoughts there?
Dana is good to be white. It's crazy that Dana is going over to boxing. Dana has proven himself to be a great promoter. He's done so much for MMA and UFC. But my only thing is like, how is he going to pay him? Like, what type of pay the boxer is going to get? Dana is known for not, you know, paying fighters as much as they want to get paid. I can say it from my own experience. You know what I'm saying? I always wish that I would have got paid like a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a greedy person. I know you guys don't know that about me, but I'm not a greedy person. I just like to get paid what I feel like I'm worth. And but at the same time, if he's what level of boxing is he putting on? Is he putting on like what I'm saying, the top notch fighter? I don't see any of those guys coming over signing with him. So he'll probably be introducing a lot of up and comer boxers that normally don't get a lot of boxers don't get the chance to make it. So
Right.
it might be good what he's doing. He might be getting a lot of these boxers that might be exciting fighters and stuff like that, giving them a chance and come and make a little money. I saw an interview the other day. One boxer said, like, I don't remember his name, but he said he was fighting, and for years he was only making $5,000 a fight. You know what I'm saying? Like my first big fight in Japan was $10,000 cash. You know what I'm saying? It's like that's
Mm.
crazy. You know, but my first pro fight was $500 cash. So you know, like I'm saying, like boxing, like people think that MMA guys don't make that much, and boxing make more than MMA. That's not the case. But Dana White coming over to boxing, I'm hoping it's a good thing because I'm always rooting for positive stuff out of Dana White and anything that he does. I'm always rooting for him if it's positive.
Right, right. We'll see how that plays out. Time will tell. Listen, man, your career is legendary. You fought Vanderlei Silva 3 times, Chuck the Iceman
I
Liddell,
fought him 4 times.
oh, four
I fought
times.
him. Yeah.
You went 3-1? No, I'm sorry.
No, no,
Oh,
we 2-2.
2-2, 2-2. Lost the first two, one in Pride, one in UFC, if I recall. Um,
No, two in Pride. I lost the first two in Pride
okay.
in Japan.
Okay, that's right. That's right. Fought Chuck twice,
Mm.
Henderson, Marvin Eastman, who we had on a show in Vegas some years, 2010 or 2007. Marvin
I fought
Eastman.
him twice.
Okay. Kevin Randleman, the late great Kevin Randleman, Forrest Griffin, Rashad, Machida, Bader, John Jones, and Fedor. And I'm not even naming your whole lineup of stars. That's a murderous row right there. Talk
Yeah.
about just getting in the cage with these guys and just just your career and fighting these other legends of the sport.
Man, it's crazy how I think about it. For me, it was just another day in the office. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? I've been a single parent. I had to put food on the table. You know, I know I had to save up for I got four at the time I had 4 kids. I had to save up for two of my kids. I had to save up for tuition and you know what I'm saying, school fees and stuff like that. And then two of my kids, I had to save up for attorney fees and stuff like that. Them kids bad as fuck. So you know what I'm saying? I knew it. I knew I had to fight. I had to go out there and work. So to me, I never fought to be famous. You know I just fought to have a good career. You know, I'm a big kid. It's fun. You know, where I win and lose, I'm having fun out there. But to me, man, it's just like being a mechanic or something. You got to go to work.
You know, you mentioned we talked a little bit about Chuck in Vegas. I mentioned that he came out here to support a show, and you know, good guy. I call him California cool, just completely reserved, laid back. And he said to me on that trip, he goes, "I don't understand the whole fandom thing, like, like the fans and like wanting to meet him. We took him to Harley Davidson. We took him all over the place, lines out the door. Same with you. You seem to have that same kind of mindset. Like you love your fans, but it's kind of a weird thing to you."
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I love Rampage fans. I love them to death. But you know, I've never been a super fan of anything besides like you know, when I was a kid, you know, stuff like that. But I don't understand grown men wanting to take a picture and stuff like that. I just don't understand it. But everybody not the same. I appreciated it though. No fan, no sport. Please
Right.
don't get me wrong. But yeah, I understand what Chuck is saying. But and it's like one of those things that it's hard to get used to it. But I think the reason why we don't understand it, MMA fighters, is because it's mostly men, right? We don't have female fans. If we have just as many female fans as men fans, I think it'd be a little bit different. We would kind of get it a little bit more, but we don't get it because you know fighters like we're the alphas, right? We're the alphas of the planet. We walking around like in our alpha brains, our alpha minds, and we're not going to be fanboying over no other dude, but dudes do it to us, so we don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate it. So, and fans out there, don't get me wrong. I love the Rampage fans. I love y'all and much love and thank you for support all the years. It's just understand that you know I just don't get it. I don't understand it.
Yeah, and I saw you in Vegas, man, like at the show where you were so engaged with everybody that came up, So you're a people person, but but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. I love people. I love everybody got good energy and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah,
so it's sometimes it's good for me to go out there and put myself out there and meet new people. That's how I met you.
yeah,
Now you and I cool. You know,
yeah.
you was cool. You walked up to me. You was cool and everything. I like cool people, but it's just I understand where Chuck coming from. It's hard to get used to it. That's what it is. Like Like, because think about this. As an MMA fighter, some people don't watch MMA, right? And you go somewhere and you never know who recognize you and who don't. And then when I walk into a place, I'm walking to a place as me. I'm the same person I always been. But then some people get weird, like, oh, he walked in here and he didn't say hello to everybody and stuff like that. And, people talk like that. And I'm like, who walks into a restaurant and say hello to everybody? Who does
Right.
that? But you famous. You got to walk in and say hello to. No, I don't walk around every day in my mind acting like I'm famous because some people don't know who you are.
Right. Right. Yeah, good point. The sport has obviously evolved. All sports obviously evolve, but how would you compete in today's world? Just like the Ferreras, Magomed, like guys like that, that have learned from guys like you and taken it to these other levels.
Yeah, these guys in MMA now, they're on a different level. This sport has evolved so fast. They're just doing like so many different techniques and if I was in my prime in these days, I would have to take the sport a little bit more seriously and train and be a little bit more dedicated because back then I wasn't. Like I said, I just looked at it different. I
Mm.
liked fighting. I was having fun. I wasn't game planning or nothing like that. So I would have to like start watching tape on my opponents or something that I really don't like to do and just take it um, real seriously and be way more dedicated because like I said, I'm come from a different breed where most guys that was fighting in my generation, we was real fighters. We wasn't athletes. We probably athletic, but we were more like fighters who lock us in a cage and made the best man win. You know what I'm saying? So that's the mentality that I had. But now these guys, they like, no, I need to grind out this fight because like I'm trying to get to the top ranking. Like this guy's like, I don't want to fight a number 15 ranked fighter. I want to fight a number 3 ranked fighter. I want to move, and I never thought about that. Even though we had rankings and stuff back then, but when I was fighting, even if somebody was ranked number 1, um, you know, he probably wasn't in the UFC. The number 1 guy was in Japan out there with me.
Mm.
So it's different. Like you would never know who was number 1 and then you could never fight. The number 1, number 2 could never fight. You couldn't,
Right.
because number 1 was in Pride, number 2 was in the UFC. So I never even focused on the rankings. It was like 2 rankings. Like Pride had their like rankings and UFC had its rankings. So now these guys all in the same spot and they're just different, man. It's on different levels. So I would have to take it more seriously if I was in my prime right now fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. What meant more to you, the knockout versus Silva after losing to him a couple of times, or the knockout versus Chuck? And they were
The
both
knockout versus
hooks.
Silva. Yeah, the knockout versus Silva, 100%.
And why is that? Because of the previous losses?
Yeah, because I always knew I could beat him. If you lose to somebody 2 times, and Vanderlei Silva gave me 2 of the worst ass whoopings I ever had in my life, and I always knew I can beat him. And you had to overcome diversity because you got to be mentally strong. Because a lot of people was thinking like, oh, Vanderlei got Rampage's number. Vanderlei got Rampage's number, which was not true. I knew why he was beating me back then. And so that meant a lot to me that I knew that I was mentally strong and I could overcome getting beat up by this guy twice and go out there and fight him like it didn't phase me. That shows how mentally strong a person is. A lot of people in that you get beat really bad by a guy twice, not one time, twice. You're already defeated before you even get in the cage.
Yeah, I was watching those highlights over and over this past weekend, Rampage, preparing for this, man. So much. And I appreciate it. Who's on your Mount Rushmore?
In MMA,
Yeah.
Fedor, Anderson Silva, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, John Jones, Mighty Mouse. How many people I get on my Mount Rushmore? Mighty
Well,
Mouse,
4, but you can give me however, I don't
DJ
matter.
Penn, man. It's so many. It's so many. Jens Pulver. It's so many. It's so many, bro. It's so many in the sport.
Yeah. Um, is there one fighter in boxing, if you had an opportunity to fight, who would it be?
Well, I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of jealous at Jake Paul that he got to fight Mike Tyson. Even though I always looked up to Mike Tyson, I never would want to fight him, but that would be a dream fight for somebody like me if we both, was at the right age. But I always wanted to fight Shannon Briggs because he got a big mouth. He called me out and stuff like that. I wanted to shut him up because he really thinks he can beat me. But I know I could beat Shannon Briggs, even though he's twice my size and he got way more experience than me. I know I can beat Shannon Briggs. I just know it. I know it in my heart that I can beat this guy. And he talks too much, and he just it irks me that he laughs. He laughs at me. He laughs at my boxing skills. He just laughs whenever I post training videos because he talk about how shit I am in the gym. Like I can't even do the speed bag. I can't jump rope. I hate shadow boxing, but that don't mean I can't kick a motherfucker's ass.
Right. I remember seeing you guys at the Triad Combat in Arlington. You guys were lined up for a fight. I guess
Yeah.
fell apart, huh?
Yeah.
But listen, I want to transition, man, and I know, again, man, this is an honor doing this. I want to talk about you a little bit, like just growing up in Memphis, um,
Mhm.
on the streets, you're a street fighter, got into drugs, kind of that broken home. What were you as a kid, and what was life back then?
Well, I was a street punk, but luckily I didn't get into any hard drugs. The only drugs I ever tried in my life was weed. But I used to smoke cigarettes, drink, and smoke weed as a kid, and I used to sell drugs. It was just a product. I was just a product of my environment. I used to do a whole lot of stuff that I'm no longer proud of, but I did what I did, and it made me who I am today because now I look at the world different, and I'm very street smart, and I learned from being in the streets. I learned not to be like other people because I saw which which way they ended up and which road they was going down. So it made me who I am today, and whenever I get a chance, and I go and I tell young people that the streets are just a dead end, and you don't have to be out there. It's not like a badge that you should be wearing on your shirt. I know a lot of us are a product of our environment, but if I got out of the streets, you can get out of the streets. So, so it was pretty tough growing up. I kind of neglected my education. I never was a dummy, but I just neglected it, just hanging out in the streets and stuff like that. And I'm not proud of it, but I changed my life around when I turned 17, and I got my education and learned a few things, and I've been on a positive path ever since. I still fuck up every now and then, but I'm glad that I kind of went through something, instead of just growing up on Easy Street. I went through something, and I'm homeless for a little bit, got kicked out. I had to sleep in a car or stuff like that. Just build character, made me a tough person, made me have a closer relationship with the Most High Living God who created heaven and earth. Made me, what I'm saying, more passionate towards other people and the struggles they're going through, and just look at other human beings, different. I like put myself in other people's shoes, and that's why I like to laugh and make people laugh because, that's what helped me out during all those bad times. I could have been positive or I could have been negative. So, I decided to be as positive as I could. And look at me today. I'm proud of the person that I've become. And, I think that I could always do better. But I just feel like, you know, um, everybody has a struggle in their life and mine was just different from others.
Rampage, I don't know if I shared with you, I wrestled in high school, the greatest thing I ever did in my life to this day. If you didn't find wrestling, where would you have ended up?
If I didn't find wrestling, I probably would have been in and out of the prison system, or probably in a grave like some of my friends that didn't make it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Let me ask you though, you could have, or you were looking at going the pro wrestling route um, before you got into MMA, and
Yeah,
and you did some stuff with TNA. You promoted the A Team on a WWE Raw episode. Um, do you ever think back to what if? Because I look at you and just your personality, like you were made for I was WWF when I was a kid. Jimmy Snuka, Bad Leroy Brown, the characters. You to me epitomize, that kind of environment.
Yeah, yeah, that's I think that's probably why I'm out there the way I am because I grew up watching pro wrestling and I really loved it as a kid, and I wanted to bring that type of flavor to MMA. Nobody was doing it. It's just basically me being myself. I used to do this around the house. Ever since I saw pro wrestling, I was like, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler. So every day I was a pro wrestler anywhere I went. I act like a pro wrestler, and that's part of it. Just being exciting and being able to voice yourself and show your personality. And I think that that's very important in MMA because MMA is like the closest thing to pro wrestling without taking a shit on pro wrestling and saying that pro wrestling is fake. You know what I'm saying? You can call it fake, but I wouldn't call it fake. I would call it scripted.
Hmm. Were you surprised when you took your personality going back to your Pride days? I mean, they fell in love with that personality, and that's a community and so forth that, you know, when fighters are fighting, you can hear a pin drop in those fights out there with Inoue and stuff.
Oh yeah, the Japanese fans, they're very respectful. They respect you. I'm not 100%, but I think the reason why they're quiet is because they want you to be able to focus on your fight and hear your corner man, and
Hmm.
that's respect.
Yeah, but you took the personality there and they loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I love the Japanese fans, and I got to make them laugh and gave them a lot of entertainment over the years.
No doubt. And we'll wrap here up in a few minutes. I'm here with the legend Rampage Jackson. Fight got canceled, at least for now, with Rashad Evans. You're in the A Team movie, played the Mr. T character. I watched that show as a kid, you know, and what was it like being in that movie, playing that role? And did you ever talk to Mr. T about it and just that whole experience?
Playing that role was a dream come true. I've always been a big fan of Mr. T and 18, and getting the character of B.A. Baracus was like a dream come true. I never thought I had a chance, but I got to be a big kid for 6 months. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
So,
and I never talked to Mr. T. I never met him, but he did give me a Snickers bar.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
where was this?
Well, he didn't give it to me. He gave it to the director, Joe Carnahan, to give to me because I don't know if people in America know, but Mr. T, he was doing a big Snickers campaign in the UK. I used to go over there and train all the time, and I used to see him on TV over there doing a bunch of commercials, like different commercials. So he had like a Snickers campaign in the UK. And I never seen one of those commercials here. They didn't run them here. So a lot of celebrities do that. They go outside of the country and they do like different commercials and rep different companies or whatever outside of America. And yeah, he was huge in the UK, and so he gave me a Snickers bar.
That was a great show, man. That was a great show,
Oh
back
yeah,
in the day. Um,
oh, yeah.
you ever gonna give that door in the Ultimate Fighter a rematch?
It's crazy. It's crazy you said that. When is this podcast coming? When you gonna release this?
This will probably go on Fight High, maybe part of it tomorrow or this week. In Fight News, it'll go to fightnews.com this week.
Um, oh well, let me see. I don't know if you can see it, but
Oh
I,
yeah.
I can say that I had a door on Sunday. I think was that Sunday? What's today? Yeah, today Tuesday. Yeah, I had to fight a door on Sunday, so you guys will be seeing that soon. I don't know how much you see. I got cuts all over down my arm, so yeah, the door got the best of me this time.
Yeah, you lost this one. What happened there?
I had to fight a door.
Yeah, yeah. You gave the door a rematch and you lost, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But if you want to find out, go to kick.com and follow me on kick.com. I'm gonna start doing live streaming, and you guys will find out about the door.
Okay, okay. And to just a couple more questions, Rampage. Any regrets, in your life, story, career, in and out of the cage? You're still going at it, man. You're still involved, but anything you regret looking back?
Yeah, I know a lot of people say they don't have no regrets, but I do have a few regrets. I regret some of the fights I took injured. I regret taking my last fight that I had while I was unhealthy. I regret signing up to a couple of managers and stuff that I had. Yeah, I got a lot of regrets.
All right. Let me ask you with one last question, man, since I'm a boxing guy and there's a super fight presumably coming up in September, Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. Who do you like in the fight? How do you see it going?
Man, that's gonna be a real tough one. That's a real tough one. I only seen Terrence Crawford. I only seen him fight a couple times, but I think he a beast. You know what I'm saying? Canelo is a GOAT already, right? So I think whoever's the hungriest will win. I think whoever wants it the most will win. That's a great matchup, and you don't see a lot of matchups like that in boxing all the time. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
don't see the two greats out there fighting each other as often as you would like to see it in boxing.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, listen, Rampage, man, I don't know how much time we took here, but I appreciate all of it. I'm honored to know you, meet you. Would love to do this again down the road. And if you need anything, just holler, man. And hopefully you'll get that fight with Rashad too here in the future.
All right, thank you, brother.
All
Take
right,
care.
man. Be
Good talk
safe.
to you. All
Bye.
right. Bye.